Hello guys, and welcome to a very hellish version of our little cosplay build. We're going to be building the Hellboy arm. Now the things you're going to need are as follows, and can be amended at any part during this tutorial because I am a derp. So the base things you're going to need, and this is the thing we're going to talk about the most, and I'm going to go ahead and get it out of the way. This is called Great Stuff. It's also foam gap filler. It doesn't have to be. Great Stuff is the brand. You can find this at Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart. It's maybe $4 or $5 a can. You're going to need about 2 of these for this build. Maybe more if you derp it up. But don't worry, my friend. It's a little cheaper on you down the line if you're a pity pincher. Now, of course, we're going to have assorted brushes. That's just the normal stuff. Sharpie for your reference picture. This is another thing I like to talk about that I mention in most of my cosplay builds, and you're going to see me list this a lot, but I want to go ahead and break it down a little more. This one was like $8 because, as you can tell, it says DeWalt on it. It's a big name brand tool company. I would suggest getting a very high quality one of these because I just threw away like 2 of them that I bought from Walmart, and if you're looking frugal for like a one-time build, go for it. That's awesome. But if you're wanting to build a lot and have reliable products, I can't stress adding a few extra dollars. Because I think the one from Walmart was $3. This one was $8, and the replacement blades, of course, is what's going to cost you in the end. So, you know, you're not going to pay too much for the actual body. You just need a good durable. This is actually metal body. So keep that in mind. That's something to think about. And an encore performance by our hobby tool here. It's Genesis brand. If you're wanting to know, there's plenty of them. Dremel's the one you need to go for. And go corded. I'll talk more about this later, but it's reliable. When you're in the artistic mood, you don't want to have to wait for something to charge. So go corded. That one is not, though. And of course, is our optional piece for the evening. And that is, this is foam. This is the foam I talked about before. The floor foam. If you've not seen the other tutorials, I stress you go there just to hear more about it because I'm not going to really explain it every time. This is flooring foam you'll find in a gym area. It's fatigue mat. You walk on it. It's like puzzle pieces, as you can see here. And that's the long and short of it. We're going to need this to build the frame that we're going to lay the foam on top of. Because after we lay the foam on top of it, we can carve it. Now this can be, if you're really cheap and have the money to spend on $20 for 6 pieces of this, you can go cardboard. Cardboard, like I said, it's just a framework. It's just a skeleton. This is going to be a little bit more sturdy and durable. I'm going to show you how to build it this way as opposed to the cardboard way. But the cardboard way will work just the same. You're just going to have to tweak things here and there as you go along. We'll actually build the fist. We're going to build the skeleton out of foam, just a little piece as you see later. Then we'll probably put a lot of filler of cardboard. So you'll get a little bit of cardboard implemented into the build. But let's get started. Now, first things first, with the build, you're going to want to lay your arm and get the measurements of how you're going to do it. Because you want to be able to, like I said, make a cylinder of this foam around your arm. We've already cut a piece out here to give you an idea. It's pretty simple. If you don't know how to measure out stuff, and I hope that you'll do a little bit more research, but you just need to make that. That's all we're looking for. It doesn't even have to be that pretty, to be honest. And you can actually, if you're wanting a smooth side in, you can go this side. Because when you lay that foam on here, we're going to lay the foam on, it's going to expand. Then we're just going to get a razor knife and carve it out to make it look like stone. And it will look like stone if Bryson could throw me that spearhead I have here that I'd made. This is carved out of the foam. This will give you an idea. So if you know, this is what you're going for before you paint it. As you can see, there's some of that brown. There's some of the foam we used. We made an X pattern and just filled the gap up. So there you go. We're going to carve this up and then we'll make it into something later. But I just had some leftover stuff, so I figured I'd throw together something. You can make like a punching tool or whatever. There you go. Now let's glue this right now. The idea behind gluing this is you can glue on the outside and put a nice little piece because we're going to cut a little piece to connect it. Like you could glue this like that, but it's going to be terrible. Now what I'm going to do though is I'm going to run a little maybe 2-inch piece inside of here that I'm going to glue a lip and have a lip and then fold it over, glue on the inside of that lip and touch them together and hold it. That way you don't have your high rise on the outside, you got it on the inside. So I stress putting a little extra room for your arm because it's a Hellboy arm. You're going to want a little bit more room in there anyway. Alright, in there in my left hand you will see the 2-inch piece of foam. I'm going to be putting a little glue, hot glue there. Be very careful not to burn yourself. because it is extremely hot. You're just going to stick it right there on the edge, leaving a little bit for a lip, which will be our connector. You get the idea, hopefully. And later, right here in a second, you'll see me put some skewers, like you would see in food, as you would stick shrimp on and food on or whatever and cook. But skewers, I'm just running them through there, a couple of them, not too many. You don't want to mutilate your foam, but there is a skeleton, and you're going to cover this with the spray foam. So I'm just running a couple in there, and this will help hold it, so that way I don't have to sit there and apply all that pressure all the time. And there you have it. Now make sure you roll your foam there to get a cylindrical type form there, which we're going to be gluing together, and of course putting more skewers in. And that is the long and short of it. After that, everything is dry, you will have a cylinder. Alrighty, after you're done, it should look like this. I put a little duct tape on it, and that's also something you can do to help hold it together. And the duct tape is not going to hinder the foam adhering to it. So you can use, but I would use a little bit of duct tape. I wouldn't really get it because the duct tape does have a little glossy side to it. It shouldn't be no problem. I've done it before, and it's just going to hold that gap together. And as you can see, there was a little inside. We're going to be able to put our arm in there, and I would probably put this so your wrist can kind of touch it. Next thing on the list, we take a little piece here. We kind of measure out about where our fist is going to be. If you get where I'm coming from, and we're going to cut something that can fit down in here. A little smaller cylinder to kind of fit it down into this piece while we glue it. So what we're going to do, this is where our fist is going to be. We're going to build the skeleton off the fist. This can be done out of cardboard like I said before. But as you can tell, we're just going to fit it down in there just enough to where we can glue it, which is very good. Now if you're wondering about this part at the top, take a nail or another one of them skewers. The skewer's still a little too fat to do what I'm fixing to do. We run it down this little seam. We hold it together. Take this. We hold it together. We're going to run it in the top at an angle. You can clamp these. This works as well. Clamps work too. But as you can tell, it's right there in the top. I pushed it in at an angle to kind of go into the other side. Alright, now that we got this, we removed our nail, and you removed any kind of stuff that holding this together, because you don't want to leave the nails in there. I mean, it'll be fine being in there, but whatever, You don't want to come across Magneto, and then he rips it off your arm and steals it from you because it had that one little nail in there. I want to hear you griping in the comments about that. But anyway, as you can see, everything, that's a good bond, and I like this type of foam. It don't look like much right now. But while we've got the lid and no fingers, no definition, like no kind of skeletal structure of the fingers and the thumb, what we're going to do, we're going to work on a cross section that we can run in here and hold on to. Now if you've seen the newfangled Hulk hands, they've got a strapping just like this on the inside. So what we're going to do, hot glue gun, it's set at maximum stun. We're going to take like this, and we're just going to run it in there and make us a little hole on both sides, corresponding in the right area, because that is going to be where you're going to be holding. We're going to leave a little extra. Oh, Jesus, man. Be careful. It's a razor cutter. Also, close it up when you're done because it's dangerous. But we're going to take that and just kind of pinch it in half and feed it through, making sure to leave about an inch outside of it, at least an inch, because you're going to hot glue that to the outside of the thing. I'm going to pull it through here. As you can see, it's already coming through nicely. We're going to feed it through the other hole. There you go. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There we go. Either way, take the hot glue. So I think our best bet would be to do that on this direction. We don't want to make a lot of bulk on the bottom. And there you go, you just hold it there. This will probably actually hold itself, and to be honest, you can run some in that gap too, which is fact I will do that just to show you that you can run it in that little gap hole. There's that. It fills that gap, and when it's like it's cement, and you don't have to put that much, but I will stress the more you leave on the outside, the stronger and the less scared you are going to be when you start flailing it around, because when you go to a party and you've had too much and someone's like, "Oh, Hellboy, save me," and you be like, "Yeah," and then you punch somebody with it and the fist breaks off and people are like, "Oh, that is poor quality equipment." because you've already told them you made it. You want to make sure it stays in one piece. As you can see, here's a closer look at what we have here. There's our handle on the inside. There's that. Now what we did was we took some scrap, because I suggest you bring scrap with you. We're going to take a piece of scrap here, and we're just not going to insert it inside and glue it. We're going to just lay it on top. This, I stress again, all it has to do is cover the majority up. Because, first off, we're going to be building, like I said, lots of foam around it, like spray foam, that spray foam, on top of this foam. So, and then carving it, because it looks like a rock. It's going to be perfect. Alright, now we're on to the foam part. After your top and your lid is done and everything's nice and ready, like you already tell, well, this could also be a buster cannon, which we won't say much more about that, because then I will be able to make one in the future. But anyway, yeah, there you go. You've got your initial skeletal structure. Now you can go and, if it helps you, if it benefits you, you can take the cardboard or your more foam and make fingers and thumbs. But what I'm going to do is lay it down, the foam, let it expand, and then I'm going to carve it. And I'm going to sculpt it out of the clay. Or out of, not the clay. I'm going to sculpt it out of the foam. Now what we need to talk about is a few recommendations before you get crazy in the foam world. One is you're going to need water. Why water? Because when you lay the great stuff, foam, or the foam of any kind on there, just mist it with some water will help it start to form a skin and expand quicker. I learned this from, I believe, a German girl who was carving foam. You can find that video. I may link it on here if I can actually remember it. She helped a lot with that because the water, it helps accelerate it, plus whatever, you know, helps it cure and get thicker and stuff. But as you can tell, I don't know if you can tell, but I got it on a cellophane wrapped piece of wood. Or actually, this is old canvas I've wrapped in clear plastic, which is just stuff you use to wrap sandwiches in. So keep that in mind. The reason I say that is because if you squirt this on anything that starts to expand, you want to have just to be able to lift it up. You don't want it to be stuck to the surface and like, you know, because I'm going to try to cover this all in one go. More things we got to talk about. The foam has a tube. Now when you spray half a can of this and don't spray the rest, you're in trouble unless you know what to do. And that is to clip this, the hardened, it'll harden in here and it'll be where you can't spray it out. Either you get a new end like this or you just cut it down and you can start spraying right where you left off. Maybe we don't have to in this scenario, but if we do, I'll let you know and we'll show you how to do that. But what we're going to do is spray it tight. And we're not going to layer it too much, because if you layer this foam, and if you layer this foam too much, like if you go one layer, it starts to expand. But if you go one layer and then go over the top of that layer with another layer and another layer, say I tried to fill a cardboard box once to make a foam brick, but I didn't do it in layers. I just filled the whole box full of foam all at one time, took 2 or 3 cans, and I just let it sit. It cured around the outside beautifully, but the inside it was just, it didn't have time. The skin, it skinned on the outside, and it cures its way to the inside, if you get where I'm coming from. So you don't want a creamy inside and have the outside look pretty good. So, but the sad thing is, like if you cut the brick in half, it'll actually start kicking again and foam. It'll foam up and finish curing, which is weird. So it's trial and error working with this. It will stain and ruin cloth and fabric gets on it because it will harden into the fabric. So keep that in mind. This is like the first time I've done a video explaining the use of this, and I wanted to try to do it as much justice as possible. But what we're going to do is start laying it on, and I'm going to go from the top and just work my way out like I'm icing a cake with a spray. Alright, as you can tell here, we're just going to start spraying it. The further back you come from the actual piece of foam, the bigger the I guess the frothiness of the foam is going to be. You can put the thing really close and it's going to kind of spray out and kind of be flat. So if you pull it out away from about a ½ inch to an inch, it's going to be very light and airy, which is good. You want that. You want to be able to cover a lot of ground with as little foam. And you see me just covering up all that stuff we were talking about before. Like I told you, we were going to cover it with the foam. It's kind of tricky on a vertical surface. You got to do it in like little
you see like where I'm going straight down and away, I'm making little columns of the foam so it can help hold itself on there. Don't spray too much. This is about as thick as you need to get it, and it's going to have to sit there for a few hours to cure, which is terrible if you have no patience. But just take your time, and I swear this is going to be a great technique. You'll use a bunch, and it gives off a little bit of gas from the can, but nothing to worry about. If you work in a pretty ventilated area or a fan, you can do it outside. And just spray it with the water there. Just mist it. You don't really concentrate it. It'll probably wash it off. And that's pretty much it. And just let it sit there and cure.
Okay, now is the crucial step. After it's hardened, good and firm, as you can tell, it's going to be hard. You're going to feel it. There's no give. There's some give to it, but it's not squishy give. It's firm foam give. What we're going to do is we're going to add another layer. Because this one layer will probably work on the low spots, but you want to make sure you got enough leeway to where you're going to cover up that foam, and especially up top where that big fist is supposed to be, because you're aiming for that. Because we're going to have to carve something that looks like the prop, so we're going to have to add a lot more, and then we'll probably let this sit overnight, 3 hours at the most at least. Don't forget to spray your water on it, and then when we come back, we will start our carving process. Alright, it's been a full day that I have let cured after the second layer of foam. And as you can tell, we got a pretty good thickness here. I've taken it off of its little cellophane wrap board here. And we have, as you can tell, a big blob. Now at this point, you're like, that looks still pretty cool. What we're going to do is turn this into the Hellboy arm by strategically planning our sculpting. First, we're going to have to... First thing I'm going to do is mark what side the bottom is. That'll be right over here, and we're going to keep marking that. That way I know physically where it's at by looking at it without having to keep flipping it over. I'll leave that right there. Now, let's carve us a hand.
Okay, now first things first, you're going to need the razor cutter that you can extend out like that. You're going to need sharp razors. That is key. And you're also going to need trial and error. I say trial and error because you're going to have to practice on this. You're going to have to plan it out, really think of strategically what's going on. I had a good idea what I was going for when I started in on it. I'm going to show you if you've got patches and holes at this point. Of course, you're not sculpting along with me, so you're watching this to do later, hopefully. But there's going to be gaps and holes in your foam. You're going to have to fill it up, and I'm going to show you how to do that right here in a second. But you just get your basic shape. I like to start by cutting all the little, rounded off jubblies and make it a nice smooth piece, almost as smooth as I can. As you can tell, it's getting kind of smooth. And I'm going in there, carving at an angle, kind of like you would chop a tree. You'd carve a little on the left and then carve a little on the right and then pull a chunk out. You can pull it out, which will give it like a wonderful looking teared effect. But you can see here, I'm making the rises and the falls and then cutting out the little grooves and the little indentions in the foam. That's why I said add a lot, because you can take away. You can actually add at this point too. You can go back and spray more in there, but it's just more waiting. You want to add more and take away. It's going to be your best bet. So let's show you how to fill in those gaps inside your foam, because that is a big problem. And good luck on the carving process. Alright, as you see right here, I can run my whole finger in there. That's an air cavity. You're going to have those, don't fret. The way to fix it is, guess what? Just fill it back up with some more gap filler. It's going to poof out and mushroom out, so I wouldn't really work on a whole lot of a detail, because you're probably not going to be able to. One good, like half, or like not even a quarter inch, maybe like a tiny slice is going to show all of this cavern. But we don't want to do that. We want to make it a little easier for that foam to catch, so we're just going to run it off in there like that. And just fill it up a little bit to the top. You're going to hit it up in different areas. It's going to expand out, so keep that in mind as you fill it all the way to the top. Mentally you'll know that it's going to have a lot of overflow, but you don't want to cover it up too much. It will flow out, believe me. Okay, now as you see right here, this is what's going to happen. you've got your already carved piece, but the places that you filled in have overflowed. Now you want this overflow because that just tells you that it's filled the cavity completely up to the point that it has to find its way out. The only way to do this is get a really sharp razor and be careful, like I said, and just shave down. You'll shave down a little bit, carving it back down to the normal area that you had. Don't go down too far. Know when to stop, and you can always reach in with your hands and break it off. And as you can tell, the holes, you can carve it down just a little bit. The holes in the big gaping chasms we had inside of this foam are now a thing of the past. Alright, now that we've got everything cut off, all the excess and all the holes filled that we find that we need to be filled, now we're going to lay our first layer. First layer is going to be red because its primary color is red, and we'll go in with touch-ups like dark shadowing and highlights if we need to be. So all we do is glob it on here good, because you got to get in all these little nooks and these little holes you'll see, because it'll show white through. But you'll get the hang of it once you start painting it. We've done a little bit of carving here, and then of course, like I said, we've attached those. And let's just get down to it. Alrighty, we're going to the paint here. We're just globbing it on. This is just a house paint. I highly suggest looking in the mist tint area, which is going to be a clearance amount of paint where they have tons of paint left over. People that didn't get the right tint of paint, and we just lucked out here and got kind of a darker crimson, which in fact is the color of Hellboy's arm. And remember, it's going to get darker as it dries, so keep that in mind. And that is something you always need to keep in mind when you're dealing with, especially with house paint, because that's the reason there's so many mist tints in your local paint shop or your Walmart, because first off, people misinterpret the color they're buying. They get it home, they paint it on their wall, and it becomes a darker color that they didn't want. So keep that in mind. We're just painting here, globbing it on pretty good. I like to glob it, try to, really swirl your brush around and stab, like at it, kind of like you're doing a stippling effect. Stippling would be where you're just kind of going at it directly, like straight down, like straight pressure, like tapping it against the foam, so it helps shove the paint down in all them little tiny bubbles and air bubbles. And if you fill those up with paint, you don't have to worry about them no more. So that is always good. There's really no right or wrong way of painting it. Just make sure you cover up all your foam and let it dry. And it will take apparently almost a good 24 hours to dry. Unless you're putting it in front of a fan, you could probably accelerate the drying process if you needed. But other than that, that's pretty much all we got to say. And let's get to the other detailing. Alright, now after all of the base paintings done with the crimson, you'll see I've got some highlights here. What I've done is taken a lighter color crimson or a red. I would say, if you're strapped for cash like I was, I just added some white to the crimson, made it kind of a pinkish tone though. But you're not wanting to completely overhaul the piece. You don't want to just completely paint it pink. You just want to hit the high points where, say, the crimson has been grunged and busted up. Now what we're going to do is I'm just going to dry brush technique. The dry brush technique is easy. You get just a little on the end of your brush, and you find something and you just work it into the fibers and make it to where there's hardly any wet to it. You just got enough to do the job, and you'll go in here and you'll hit the high points. You want to go in at an angle like this, so that way you're not digging in those nooks and crannies. You're actually just going over that. You're brushing over the top of them, accentuating the high spots in contrast to the low spots, which you're going to be surprised at the outcome you get here. It's going to look magnificent. Like I said, with a more complementary color, it may look a little bit better. But as right here, I'm having pretty good results with just this pinkishy crimson. Alright, as you see here, I'm just hitting the high points. I just taking that paint like I told you and dry brushing it on there. You don't want to put a lot. Don't put a lot in your paintbrush, because if you do, you're going to start covering it with pink, and then you're going to have to go back with your crimson. So you don't want to do that, just adding more steps and more trouble, and it's going to hurt your juju. Your artistic juju, that is. It keeps you going, your mojo. Because if you get distracted, you're going to hate it. You're going to hate it, and you're going to want to walk away from it. Now, right here, I'm using some black, or some dark gray, that is, for lack of black, in these grooves. It's going to get matte and finish a very dark color, but it looks real glossy and really bright gray right now, but it is not, believe me. I wouldn't be painting if it was. And that's one thing I want to point out with what little time I have here. You want to make sure to get like matte or satin maybe. I wouldn't go no glossy like house paints, because if that's what you're going for, then go for it. But for lack of money, if you only got that option, then do that. But you want to go flat. You want to make sure it's a flat and maybe an exterior paint, because it'll last longer in the long haul. And latex. Don't go oil-based paints. Oil-based house color paints are really nasty, and you want to go latex here. The latex paints. It should be quite easy. Most paints are latex, but like I said, you know, it's all your preference. So I hope this helped you. Let's get to me with my big mouth again.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we are at the finished product. At this point, all we did was take the black, put in there, and just some of the deep crevices just to set it out and stand it apart, like the fingers. We did it in there. And this will all get darker and matte over and kind of blend in with the rest of the red. Right now it's fresh because I'm strapped for time and I've got to throw this thing together. And as you can tell there, it's really shiny. It won't be shiny here in, say, 30 minutes or so when it's fully dried. The dry brush technique works beautifully. I know what you're saying right now. Patrick, anyone who knows anything about Hellboy knows it's his right hand, you derp. While you're carving, you effed it up. And I'm going to I'm going to give you a knuckle sandwich. Let me explain to you why I'm going to give you a knuckle sandwich. It's because while holding your goblet of wine at your fancy soiree and or party and or cosplay event, you may see a fancy lady dressed up like that flaming chick. What's her name? I don't know. You don't know yet. That's why you're drinking a goblet of wine, to get the courage to ask her. And you're like, hey, come over here so we can have words. She comes over there. You're wearing this on your right arm, and you're right-handed. So you're like, mind if I... Oh! Whoosh! All over her brand new, hard-worked cosplay item. Do you think you're going to get to know her name? No, she'd probably set you afire. She doesn't even have that power. She'd be like... And you'd be like... Ugh! And you're not Hellboy, so you can't withstand the flame. You were just pretend Hellboy. And then we come back here to where you go in the comments. Patrick, you're right. I'll never again question your all-knowing cosplay authority, which is absolutely none. I don't have any, Braxton. I don't have any cosplay authority. I hope they believe I do. Anyway, the point being is that you want it on the hand that you're not going to use. Unless you're going for just crazy accuracy, then do it on the right hand. Or if you're left-handed, whoopity for you. You get to drink your goblet of wine and look comic book accurate and get all the babes. Just give yourself a round of applause, buddy. What I'm getting at, ladies and gents, is that you got to think about little things like that. You want to be able to touch, grab, feel, hold your drink, eat your pizza on the go, while also being able to maintain the cosplay item that you've worked hard on. Because you don't want to be like, yeah, I'll have some food, and some goblin in cosplay comes by and steals your stuff, because we all know goblins in cosplay, they're not to be trusted. But guys, this, of all things I've taught you, is a diverse thing. It can make rocks, it can make boulders, it can make and it's lightweight. So you can pick a boulder up and throw it and smash in someone's face. You can make this, you can make a buster cannon, but I would go more of a smooth style, because, you know, he didn't have a stone buster cannon. It was, you know, Mega Man type deal. I'm going to work on some Mega Man stuff in the future, so look forward to that. But this is a very diverse effect. You're using the foam like we did before, so if you bought the 6-pack foam from the store already and you've made something that you desire and you have a couple pieces left over, boom! All you gotta do is pick up like $10 worth of maybe that spray foam. Give this a shot. If nothing more than get a can of it at your store while you're shopping, spray it on a piece of board and just look at it. Get a feel for your product. I will say, I show you a lot here, but I can't show you everything. But experiment. Show me, please, with video responses and your email to patrickjtoday@yahoo.com down there in the bottom. I would love more than anything to hear your feedback in the comments. Tell me what you want me to build. I'll try. Because I will use this in the future. If you see this in a future video, make sure to comment below and tell me about it, because that would be beautiful. I would love more than anything for you to watch this video and then watch that video to see it as it gets used in an actual skit. But guys, I hope this taught you something, and I hope that if it did, that you'll hit that favorite button, you'll hit that like button, of course, and most important, hit the share button, and share it with your friends and relatives to help build an audience that maybe could learn from this. I really had a good time building this. I'm really going to have a good time utilizing it, if nothing more than me just randomly fist pumping people come Halloween. That would be beautiful. I appreciate that very much. There will be links at the end and annotations if you want to see other cosplay builds. Thank you very much for watching the video, and fish!